Thanks very much, Jat. And as you said, it is time for our sixth and final match of the day, which is Team Coast versus Velocity Esports. And this is the final meeting of the split between these two squads, unless they meet in playoffs this summer. And so far, Team Coast has swept away Velocity in all three of their head-to-head matchups, including their game last week.
Freak, you could say Team Coast walked all over Maple Street and crew last week. And in the process, they ended their 6-game losing streak. In that match, we had Team Coast trying something new. They put Zion Spartan on Gragas. And teams have really been banning out his top lane carries, so that's really why they've been trying to other stuff besides that Riven that he's really known for. Zion, he's really been looking, and he's found something. Yeah. Not only the Gragas, but also the Shen. He's had a really strong performance on both Shen games that he's had this summer. So congratulations to them, I guess. They've got another option there for Zion and top.
Adding champions always useful for these guys. And of course, with their win over CLG, Coast have jumped into a tie for 5th place. They're looking pretty good here. While Velocity's playoff chances, though, they took a big hit after that loss to Vulcan. So it's getting tough for them.
Yeah, Velocity needs to win at least 6 of their next 7 games and get a lot of help from Dignitas and Curse if they want to make it into the playoffs.
So guys, with that in mind, let's check out the starting lineups before we get into the game. On the blue side, it is Team Coast with Zion Spartan in the top lane, Nintendo Ducks in the jungle, Shifter in mid, Don't Mash Me on AD carry, and Daydreamin' on support.
And in the Scarlet letters, it's Velocity. Chris is up top, NK Inks in the jungle, Echo's mid, Maple Street is AD carry, Evan Niscus is supporting.
So these guys have been putting on pretty good performances. I should say sort of hit and miss performances. Some of them have been really, really good. We've seen incredible games from these guys. Velocity have had really good early game openings in a good number of their games, right? We talked about how their early game tends to be strong. They have some mid-game troubles. They were dunking on Cloud9 not a few weeks ago, like, and had an early lead. And how many teams actually start out with a lead against Cloud9?
Yeah, that's saying a lot.
Exactly. So you know these teams have skill, and you just saw Coast as well earlier today. I would say sort of controlled and dominated and made good moves the entire time against CLG. So you know there's these glimmers of hope for these guys that they can move up at the last part of the season.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'd really like to see Velocity moving back to sort of what I believe are their roots, which are their very innovative team compositions and strategies that they've gone for. Their pushing strategies and split pushing and picking off people, where they had, you know, jungle Ezreal. I got very excited at the beginning of the split because of the solo lane Janna comboed with a jungle Ezreal being able to take turrets very early, but they haven't really returned to that form, and nothing else has sort of given them any traction.
Yeah, it's interesting seeing the teams that leave behind their old strategies. Like, think back to the beginning of the spring split, and Reggie was getting his LeBlanc band away, and he never actually played it, but it was like, here's this thing that everyone was worried about. And Dignitas are actually still forcing the Master Yi bans. They'll actually bring it out if it's not banned out, so they found something new, and they've actually been running it. Velocity, after they first used jungle Ezreal against Dignitas, then their next few games started forcing bans. They started forcing the Janna or the Ezreal bans, removing that option. People have stopped banning that out.
Yeah.
Like, that's fully available to them as long as they just, you know, play the champion select game.
So what happens, because these teams are so pressed for time and they have to prepare for so many different matches, when things get banned out for a couple of weeks in a row, they don't practice that strategy at all anymore. And I know specifically players like Reginald, if he hasn't practiced that mid lane champion in the last week or two, they're not going to run that composition. So if you ban it out a couple of weeks in a row against them, then he'll completely stop playing it.
And that's kind of interesting, though, to see like the players that are like, how familiar they need to be, how up to speed they need to be on certain champions. Then to be like, no, I haven't done Karthus in 2 weeks. Like, it's not quite in my hand right here. So we'll delay it a little bit. It's interesting to see sort of what exactly these guys need to bring out those certain strategies. And as you said, I feel like Velocity would be served kind of playing those oddball strats a little bit more. But of course, we'll see when they actually pick up this game. We will be getting it underway very, very soon. Zion Spartan tends to be cursed. We have a quick issue with him that we're fixing out, and then we'll be okay.
It's always his fault. Even the tech guys call him
Zion
Spartan.
Man, I feel like he needs to go back to school and learn how to keep the computer up to speed, man.
Yeah, he should probably go to like IT Tech or something and and learn some troubleshooting, some quick troubleshooting abilities.
It does give them time to huddle back up, though. Get the 1-2-3 coast out. It's one of my favorite parts of their games.
I didn't see Elements walk in there. Are they doing this by themselves nowadays?
Maybe.
They don't have him there to lead it. It's a little quieter than usual.
Elements is a pretty loud dude, but
1, 2, 3, go!
there we go.
Yeah, they still got it.
They still got it. Still got it. That's why you have everyone join in though. You don't just have the leader go, guys, 1, 2, 3, coast. Oh, I'm the only one who said anything.
I bet.
You gotta make sure you train them.
Cody's proud at home watching. He's let them do it on their own now. He doesn't have to lead them this one.
And they're picking up wins again as well, right?
Yeah.
They had that really rough patch. They actually, recently ended that loss streak. They're now actually on a 2-game win streak, and they're looking to play Velocity and pick up another one here. So they're on the upswing. They're doing the huddles. They found champions for Zion Spartan, which is really important. I mean, the stat we had earlier, 5-0 on Riven, and then 2-12 otherwise. Like that's
not a good.
That's really bad. Like that's not a thing you really want to see. So it's good to see them start to pick up those wins again, find something comfortable there. But of course, you got to realize that Shen is a champion that VES plays. They could certainly just ban Riven and Shen this time around, and you've got to make sure, as we were talking about the players who have certain champions they're ready to play and certain champions they're comfortable with, you've got to make sure that Zion's comfortable with more than just 2 champions.
It's a good point. Chris definitely really likes that Shen, so it'll probably be a highly contested pick in this matchup.
And of course, these guys have a lot to fight for as well. You look at the last game that was played there, and the Zed banned away from Shifter, and the really common picks just being removed away. And now that you're also a lot of the way through the season, you've got so much time for research to know the favored picks there. And Chris was around at the beginning of the Velocity time period, so you actually know his champions really, really well. You know what he tends to run. Echo played in the spring split on Marn. You know his champion pool. These guys are very familiar with what's available there for the champion pools.
Yeah, and I feel like Coasts are actually okay with how familiar everyone's getting with them and how people are once again sort of underestimating them, because they did this last split where nobody really respected them at the end of the split because they were so low in the standings, and they came back and took 2nd place in the playoffs. So Coasts are actually in the position to do that again. I feel like teams should be watching these games, especially since they just started winning again. If Coast make a run at the end of the season, I'd be just as scared of them in the playoffs than I was last season.
There is a couple things in their way, though, because if things go the way I'm kind of thinking right now, TSM's in 3rd. If Coast gets another 6th place in the regular season, they play TSM first round. And TSM has been beating them pretty routinely. They beat them in the spring playoffs. I think they have an up record against them in the split itself. So that's, even if you make the playoffs, you've got to be very cognizant of who your first round opponent is and make sure you match someone that you're good against. Like we just saw, Coast has CLG's number. They want to make sure that they can move up high enough to play CLG in the playoffs. Not
Sometimes
TSM.
you don't get the choice, and you just want to get into the playoffs.
Yeah. But the more you win, and now that TSM and CLG are 2 games apart, like getting up there and getting a better seed is really important for these guys. And of course, we are in a champion select though. Zion Spartan's issues have been fixed, and the Kennen dropped away from Chris first off.
All right, let's jump in and see how Velocity decide to deal with Zion, because that's been the main story of this Coast team. And the Zed ban is actually a dual-purpose ban, because that's one of Shifter's main champions as well. So it takes out one of the options for both of their carries.
So here we go. Next one up. I still expect a Riven ban to come through unless Chris thinks he can beat him heads up. Zion and Chris have done battle before this split. They've been close battles. Twisted Fate dropped away from Echo, another favorite champion there. Elise away from Nintendo. These are just the normal target bans that you tend to see.
Yeah.
But Shen and Riven are both up right now.
Taking that away from Nintendo brings up the Jarvan stat in my mind, where he is the most predictable player, you could say, of the NALCS, because he has picked Jarvan more times than any other player has picked a single champion. So he goes back to that champion over and over and over again, even though they haven't had the greatest win percentage with it.
And there's the Jace and the Riven bans coming out there. I'm surprised actually Velocity waited so long to ban Riven when you had to expect it coming out here, but give it up. So the Shen is open, what Zion Spartan ran last time. A couple of different options up for these guys. And yeah, we'll see what the first pick ends up being. They're definitely discussing this one long and hard.
Yeah. And Coast usually run either a pick comp or a split pushing composition. They don't normally run the big team fighting combo dragon-oriented team compositions that we see from some of the older teams here. They pretty much stay away from that and go more towards dueling or more towards split pushing.
Which is interesting because I think back to the Cloud9 win against Velocity, where Velocity got the early game lead and then lost at Dragon. That tended to be VES Kryptonite, is good mid-game team fighting teams. So it's interesting to see which styles tend to work better against these guys. And Velocity, they're opening up with the pick comp here. They're going Ahri and Jarvan, stealing away the predictable intended pick, stealing away the Ahri, one of the biggest assets for Shifter, as well as banning away Zed. So Velocity's done some good research here.
That is definitely a double whammy here. Very good early pick ban phase here from Velocity. The only thing that they already did give up was that Shen, and so it does open the opportunity for one of the other champions that Zion's been successful on. So Coast are still feeling pretty good about this one, and they have the ability to have that extra threat in the late game and the extra chance of turning those 4 vs 5 team fights into 5 vs 5 team fights. I love that. Yes, okay, so they just locked in Evelynn. That opens up one of the most exciting combinations, which is Invisible Evelynn coming in, which is one of the only ways to make Shen actually sneaky. I know Doe and Monte Cristo always love talking about how obvious of a ninja Shen is. If you combo him with Evelynn, it gets a little more ninja-like.
Becomes a subtle ninja. And they both match. They're both blue. It's so nice. But Echo, again, you're not picking a Nivea. You already have Ahri. Echo, you're just lying.
That's his placeholder, his go-to.
I don't like it because it's a non-obvious placeholder. It's not like it's like Heimerdinger or Teemo, where no one's picked him in competitive in a long time. It's like, oh yeah, Anivia, yeah, people totally pick that champion. Hecko, would you stop that crap? So, gonna look for his own champion though. Maple Street back on Varus here. I find it interesting actually about the Varus because that tends to be like one of the go-to champions for, I don't normally get a lot of farm as the AD carry, so I have utility. But he's happily saying, no, I get a lot of farm and I'm Varus. I have utility and damage.
And coupled with Zyra.
Yeah.
Talk about utility. This combination right here has so much lockdown potential that they're going to enable that Ahri to skirt the sides of this team fight. And so if Evelynn does come in, she always likes to come in from a side position and flank as well. But if she gets seen out early, then it will be easy for Velocity to actually lock that one up. And they have plenty of disengage to be able to keep her down.
See if they can do it then. Right now, the last couple of picks coming in here for Team Coast. They put in Don't Mash Me on Vayne, and ooh, they grab a Karthus in here for Shifter. Not a champion we see on him a lot, but a lot of team fight power now for the Coast lineup.
So basically the plan is for Shifter on Karthus to spearhead this operation, get everybody's attention, just lay down some area of effect damage while they open up the sides for Evelynn to come in and get behind Maple Street, because Maple Street has been one of the ones to carry this Velocity team consistently. He's one of the only ones. So if they are able to take him out from the back with that Shen Evelynn combo, then it's really going to open up the rest of the battlefield here. Even if Shifter goes down early as Karthus, he'll still be able to control a zone of the battlefield with his Defile and his passive, and allow Don't Mash Me to tumble in and out of the opponents.
We'll see if Don't Mash Me can tumble in and out of the Rumble ultimate, though, as the last champion has come through. Velocity with an interesting mix of team fight power, lockdown, and assassination with Echo going in there. So a couple of different advantages here for the Velocity lineup. Double AP, a lot of range, good amount of lockdown.
Yeah, both of these teams have pretty good answers actually for the first Dragon fight. I feel like there's going to be a lot of anticipation for that first Dragon fight, because as soon as you have both Rumble and Shen hit level 6, then there's two different sort of opportunities there. Coast are going to try and stall it out so that Shen can get an advantage split pushing, whereas Velocity with Chris and that Rumble are going to try and pin them down at the Dragon.
Let's see if they can do it then. The Dragon, maybe a trade for a turret. We'll see what these guys end up doing. Velocity, remember, they're sitting at 4 and 17. They're in 8th. They are mathematically possible to come through and make it into the playoffs. They've got to make a really, really good run here. Coast, they sit at 9 and 12. They're tied for 5th. They can get a win here. They're in sole control of 5th and very close to actually knocking down CLG. I actually want to say they'd be tied with CLG if they win this game. I feel like it'd be close at the very least. I'm trying to think about it, and I feel like they get like right there. So Coast pretty close to hitting the top of the standings. They can make this game happen.
And you have to remember too, with Velocity, they don't have Vile Rose anymore. So the reason they had Vile Rose is because he was a very outspoken shot caller, and he was very loud, and he could focus this Velocity team. So they can make those late game team decisions, which are very important when you're dealing with a Shen and a split pushing and deciding which objective to go for. So we'll have to see if they do get to the late game again. It feels like it's going to be even more difficult for Velocity than usual because they won't have that loud voice.
We'll see if they can get the pipes they need then. Here we go, Velocity spawning the top right. The red team trying to get their late split hopes alive and make it all happen. Team Coast, though, in blue. They've already won a game today. They're looking to make that 2 and 3 in a row overall across the weeks. And Kank with a flag down. Velocity going in hard for some early wards.
They definitely want to just bully their way in this one. And they do put down a ward on the back here.
And they get some vision there. Zion Spartan on Shen, walking in toward Velocity. He's not learned an ability just yet. Slowed down by Chris. Daydream with the hook. Oh, he leads it too far and doesn't quite catch on to Chris here. So nothing quite picked out there. Velocity, though, back on defense in their jungle as Coast still move forward.
And Velocity's level 1 completely relies on that grasping root. So you can see as soon as Zyra blew the cooldown on it, they had to split and just run for the hills because they are relying 100% on that grasping roots to lock down the level 1.
And so Coast, though, have made their way in, put a couple of wards down in the opposing jungle. They'll know some of the blue side moves by Velocity. Nintendude lurking in the shadows, invisible. Yet Echo does not spot him, but Nintendude sees Echo. So a little bit of knowledge there. Hey, the mid laner's going mid.
So Velocity really lost out quite heavily in this level 1. They got no vision wards down.
And Chris gets caught out right here. A lot of damage coming off the Ignite as well. Chris gonna have to flash the wall to get out of this one. Trading Ignite for Flash. Daydreamin' not gonna enjoy 5 free ability power. And they've got control. Sorry, I should say Coast has control over the red buff if they want it.
They're going to take it too. They do want it. And the only decision now will be if they clear the whole thing out to get the extra experience and as well get the timer for that to return to it. So it looks like Nintendo will want to get the timer on that red, and we'll have to see around 7 minutes, 10 seconds if they return for a repeat steal.
And Velocity are actually able to steal away the red buff.
Oh,
NK8 walks right into Zion Spartan. Taunt comes off. He's still got to run. Has to burn his own flash. So look at that. The level 1s became identical for these guys. Both top laners using their flash. Both red buffs being stolen.
Yeah, both top laners making the same mistake there. And both of them are going to be late to lane. But since Chris sort of had his interaction early before the minions came, he actually has an advantage. Even though he made the first mistake, minions were not spawned yet, so he got back to that turret.
And now Nintendude wants to get back to the turret as well. Chris still level 1, zoned out from XP and gold. And Kank through his jungle. Looks like the same, of course, that already happened for Nintendude. But they might go for a turret dive here. The third waves are arriving, and we could have the push soon.
Nintendude looks like he wants to go for a dive here. It's very, very dangerous, though. So they might want to just go with the zone Chris off of his turret if they don't land a death sentence. Because we've seen so many early failed 3v1 dives here that they could lose a lot of control.
And there's Zion. Oh my gosh, dodges the knockup from NK Inc. Puts Ignite down as well, taking a lot of pain right there. The plant helping knock him lower. Zion should be surviving under the turret though. Evaniscus died to the turret because his plant kept hitting Zion Spartan. Oh my gosh.
Talk about the failed dives here. You lose control of the map when you do tank the turret for too long right there. Now Zion actually makes a choice this time to stick around and try and make the best of this situation. And he's not under too much threat here.
He's actually okay. NK Inc. waited around to the side though, is going to proxy the minion wave. This turret is taking a lot of punishment, but the first turret has gone down already. However, with Zion getting XP, he is ahead of Chris right here. And Zion, he's actually keeping his turret afloat right here. Not even taking too much poke.
And they've actually made the decision to keep their 3 members up pushing top. So they're trying to go get a second turret.
Yeah, Chris level 1 has Evaniscus though on the side to defend him. This might just be enough wave clear. Mashby gets rooted up in turret range, but doesn't attack back.
Now Ari's gone back to base from the mid lane. So we'll have to see if Coast actually make the adaptation and pull back while there's an extra person available. Or if they just don't change their minds at all when they see Echo return.
And Coast aren't reacting to the bottom lane either. They've kept Nintendude counter jungling instead of defending the bottom lane. So Zion might lose his turret here on this wave. Maple Street put some damage into Zion. Has to be afraid of this one, but with the cannon minion there, this could be a turret picked up. Zion puts turret aggro onto Maple Street, but he's kind of okay with that because the turret does go down right here. Coast on a small gold lead, but they've traded turrets. And I think Nintendo got seen going into the jungle.
And Daydreamin up top still has 1 ward left. It is a pink ward. So he's going to have to use that around the red buff area if they want to continue having their duo lane up top, because they're very overextended right now. And Jarvan is one of the junglers that can easily punish you if you get that deep into enemy territory.
And speaking of Jarvan, NK Inc. is making its way towards the top lane. However, Coast did choose to back out, so no pickup here for NK. Unfortunate. There are only 10 minions on the guy. He's been spending a lot of time making, dives work, but not getting minion kills for himself. So not a very rich man. Nintendo getting some counter jungling is a little bit better off as far as gold is concerned, but he hasn't gotten to buy yet. He's looking for the mid lane maybe.
And it's interesting that they're switching mid lane with their AD and support, whereas Coast have actually sent them bottom now, even though the turret's already down. So they're just teaming up with Zion to push back hard on this bottom lane.
And it's forcing NK Inc. as well as Maple Street down to the bottom half right here. Looks like Coast are happy to be sort of stacked up near the Dragon side, near the bottom. However, they're letting Chris get free farm. They're letting him push up towards that top turret. It's forcing Zion Spartan back right here. Didn't end up getting a ton out of his time in the bottom lane.
Yeah, Coast, they had a short power play here. Whenever you push a lane all the way to the second turret like they did top, they forced Chris to stay up there. So effectively on the rest of the map, they had a one-man advantage. But now they've even had to have Daydream and blow his flash here. NK Inc. going aggressive.
And the Flay, the flash burn as well. The Condemn knocking NK Inc. away. But a good flash removal there. Good stuff here by the Velocity lineup. So Mash Me and Daydreamin, they're just going to go for the double golems here. Catch themselves up a little bit more golden experience. And you kind of see the AD carries in pretty similar situations. Level 4, minion kills in the 40s. These guys are, and they're even going to be landing against each other. So I feel like I don't know where this matchup's going to go just yet.
Yeah, Coast definitely wasting a little bit of time from that advantage that they could have rolled with the early turret and the failed level 1 dive. But Evelyn not really able to make that impact on the map that she would like to early. And instead has had to just farm up jungle camps here, which is not the optimal way to use Evelyn.
Nintendo got spotted out, actually was in reveal range of Maple Street, and then the plant shot him and revealed the stealth right there. So Nintendo forced her one away from that one. Nice attempt, but not in the best shape. No good gank there. And actually you saw that NK Inc. did manage to catch up more or less in minion kills. You see 20 to 23. Nintendo going back to his own jungle saying, all right, I'll hit level 6, I'll be a good Evelyn. But look at this, attempted blue steal by NK Inc.
And we talked about the timer on the buffs for the second buff takes here. Both junglers getting their own red again, but NK making the adaptation here, using the flag for vision to make sure that it's safe to take away this blue, whereas Nintendo decides to go for the gank.
He lands the ulti onto Echo, forcing the dashes out. Nintendo's still chasing on down, but I don't know if he has the damage he needs. Does force Echo away, and if they knew, they could go for a blue steal, I think.
That gank, trading Evelyn ult for Ahri ult, just cost him his blue. So definitely a poor decision there by Nintendo. As a jungler, anytime you show yourself, you have to know you're making a big sacrifice. So you want to make a big impact with that gank. And he just wasn't there going for Ahri, who's so slippery and can get away with just using her ult, not having to burn any summoners.
So a very, very good move then coming out by NK Inc. to take one down, and of course, good escape by Echo. The cooldown trade, as we mentioned a little while ago. So don't mash me and Daydreamin. Still in this bottom lane, still holding close to equal as far as minion kills are concerned. And Velocity Esports, despite spending a lot of time stealing the blue, have not lost their own.
Ooh, hook onto Maple.
And this is going to be rough. So Maple Street down below half HP. Look at the damage coming out, but the beautiful cleanser keeps him alive. But there's the Requiem. That's going to be a kill picked up there. Shifter taking that one home. Now Daydreamin forced to run because here comes NK Inc. Not going to go for it. Zion Spartan keeping the team alive thanks to the Stand United. So that is good stuff here for Coast. They could keep pushing.
Double globals used right there to turn around the Bane lane, but now they're going to actually have to push hard on this turret because that left Chris free up top.
And Daydream is going to fall down right there. Evidence is picking up the kill right there. Following in Edward's stead, being the carry Zyra. That is not what Coast wanted. They've given Chris a free lane. They've equalized the champion.
Yeah, Velocity did a great job right there. They were able to equalize the kills and make great use of Chris's free time up top. Whereas the extra man from Coast, which is Nintendo, keeps spending time in that mid lane and not really having much of an effect on the game. We usually talk about Evelyn having a huge effect on the early game, but his presence really hasn't been there, and neither have the wards for Team Coast. They're almost blind on this entire map here, and Velocity are really making great use of the time where Coast can't see what they're doing.
And they've timed the ultimates away as well. Zion, Spartan, and Shift are both without ultis here. That's going to make it an easy Dragon pickup right there for Velocity. Even with NK Inc. Smite down, they knew they were safe for it. So they got that suppression from the top lane turret. Nintendo went to go farm that out. He was nowhere nearby. The Dragon going their way. Velocity, now the team with the gold lead. Good moves there. BF sword picked up for Maple Street. A lot of good things going this way.
And most of it does come down to that vision. You can't wait 10 minutes into the game to start dropping those wards. The pink wards, though, for Velocity, on the other hand, they have not been cheap with their money. They've been spending it, and that's because of the Evelyn, and it's also for them some counter warding opportunities. So it's a very good job there by Velocity.
Good stuff by these guys. Nintendo's gonna actually spot Echo lurking around. Did get seen right there. That was the exclamation point. Echo knows he's lurking around in the shadows. It's gonna be a 2-on-2. Turn it a 2-on-4 as the mid laner support come in. Zion Spartan gets charmed up. Echo still trying to run, gets taunted. Nintendo is gonna show up for this one. Does land a couple of hate spikes. Does not ult for this one. Does not want to burn that. Does know that Echo could have escaped. But Coast now have a bit of a lead on the map. Echo forced to recall. They could push.
Coast definitely are going to make a move in middle here. They just burned NK's flash. So they have the presence, and he also doesn't have the summoner spell to get away, so he has to be very careful about the death sentence or the taunt flashes from Zion.
And this is the pressure now onto the turret. Catch onto NK Inc. Daydream is not going to go into this one. Puts the lantern down for the quick shields. Zion forces a dash back. They don't get enough damage onto the turret here, and Chris does have equalizer. They could turn any fight around. Maple Street comes in from the side as well. Velocity's gonna hold.
So now they've forced Velocity collapse, but they have Stand United available here on Team Coast. So Team Coast can actually start their split pushing and now make use of their globals because they've got decent wave clear as long as they can get Shifter back to this mid lane.
Looks like they're gonna be able to do a good job of this one. Velocity pushing all the way down to the turret. Coast now on the defensive. Zion Spartan not yet split off to the sides, just taking wolves right now. So no split pushing actually found here for Coast. They're still sitting near the mid. No, it's actually Shifter sent to the bottom side. He's going to take some farm up on Karthus and try to be a big late game threat.
I feel like Coast have had the opportunity to push advantages on this map, but have been spending quite a bit of time farming small jungle camps and haven't come out with very big rewards, as big of rewards as they could have. So right now they've sent Karthus bottom to be split pushing rather than standing Shen, which is sort of the same situation, but right here where they land that death sentence, they can't go in because Karthus can only add the Requiem, which is a little bit of damage. He can't actually show up right in the middle of that fight. So that's why they've recalled him to the mid.
And Shifter doesn't even have much ability power yet. Rod of Age is not yet completed. Tyr just sitting there stacking up as well. So I feel like their power is super weak right here. Echo getting another steal on the blue that has been denied now twice by Velocity. They're controlling the jungle. They've gotten the dragons. Really good stuff with these guys. Keeping the gold lead at 500 in Velocity's favor despite Coast getting first blood earlier on in this game.
And that is props to NK Inc. He is the one on their team keeping all the timers and making those movement calls and the rotations around the map. So great job there by the timer keeper. Oh, the death sentence and charm both go out.
A lot of damage, lands a piercing arrow as well. Plants come down, trying to zone out the rest of Coast. That happens here. The red buff is up. The ward gets taken down here. Don't mash me. Has to be afraid though. Velocity trying to hold control, but fighting a rumble in the jungle is a bit of a difficulty.
Coast now finally though have the separation that they're looking for. Now what they have to do with this four-man team is just hold the turret.
There they go, the dive on in, the knockup. They're gonna hit everybody from Coast right there, and Nintendo's gonna fall right on down. There comes the equalizer. Zion Spartan, gotta run away from the charm at a champion kill lead. Now up there for Velocity, and they've got pressure on the turret.
The team with Shen always seems to be getting impatient here. Velocity are going to be rewarded with a turret kill after that one, so it wasn't just a kill on Evelyn that they got from that. It was also the mid-turret objective, which is the biggest of the outer turrets to get. And it's because not only did they decide to engage and burn their Standing Knight on Shen there, but Evelyn didn't even flank from the side. She went straight into the faces of Velocity there.
Really good stuff then by these guys, finding the fight they wanted. Velocity putting the pressure on the mid lane. Velocity getting the kill, getting the catch, putting the burst down. The Zyra knockup, so good as well. Don't Mash Me grabs the red finally for himself. That'll be nice. The Shifter's still trying to power up. Finds the Rod of Ages finally, but still not level 11. Still no rank 2 Requiem. Zion Spartan in the same boat. The cooldown goes down on those globals if he could just get some levels.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That's a good job by Velocity capitalizing on Coast initiation there, but I feel like the onus was on Coast to defend the turret while Shen would slowly start pushing the lane. And then they just decided to pull the trigger there.
Yeah.
With the Evelynn engaged straight up the middle.
And the thing is, it was interesting because when they played against Counter Logic Gaming, they had to be the ones going in fast. He's going to go in on Chris right here. Down about half HP. No one's there to support the fight, though. This will stop. But yeah, compared to the game against CLG, Coast had to initiate fights against Counter Logic Gaming, thinking they would get outscaled. This time, you're right. They could just kind of sit around and play it a little bit later.
Well, it's that duo lane for Velocity that have so much disengage. We saw the lockdown from the Evaniscus combo into the Maple Street ultimate right there. Just does so much work. It makes it very hard for Coast to make one of those rushes straight up the middle.
Let's see if they can find something else. Velocity are going to look for the Dragon as their big attempt here. The standard edit is not up, so it's a 4-on-4. Will Coast do anything to stop this one? Pink ward is down. The poke comes across, Nintendo down below half HP. No ulti up for him either. And Coast says, you're right, we can't do much about this. They look for mid, but Velocity's going to be coming in soon.
There's the timer that you mentioned. NK Inc. still looking very good here. Able to time that one perfectly and take the Dragon immediately, and now he looks for the engage.
They dive right on Endangerment, falls down. The exhaust comes across. There is a beautiful equalizer going to make this fight unequal. 2 kills picked up. 5 versus 3. Flash top from Zion Spartan. Can he find the damage on a Maple Street? Looks like he won't quite do it. Echo flashing away. Shifter goes down. Here comes the Requiem. Will it be enough? 2 kills picked up right there. Everyone else so incredibly low, but it's still a team fight win for VES.
Chris set that one up perfectly. He started roaming down 5 seconds before they decided to engage on that team fight. So he was there in range to fire up the equalizer at the same time that Zion's Stand United actually came up. So they didn't lose anything from that split pushing potential. And Velocity, amazing coordination right there. Very good call to pick that one up.
So good stuff. Then Velocity continuing to get the team fights just barely that they want. I mean, that fight was very, very close. Requiem nearly claimed 2 more lives there. Couple hundred health left in those guys sort of cumulatively. And so it's now Coast fighting off a 3,000 gold deficit, looking for something to put themselves back into this one. Mash Me 002, he's kept himself alive as a short-range Vayne, but is not yet turning into that hyper carry that they just might need from him.
So Don't Mash Me has to be worried about his positioning, right, too, because he has that short range. And then Nintendo at this point also has to be very worried about his positioning because he is that squishy Evelynn. He's not only did he not make much of an impact early game, but that has resulted in him not having very much beef, so to speak. So you have to watch his ultimate. He gets all of his defenses basically from landing his ulti on multiple people. If Nintendo does not hit 3 or more people with his Agony's Embrace, then the shield's not going to be big enough for him to survive in the fight. And we can see him just get bursted down from the beginning right there and not make use of these offensive items that he's building.
And now getting bursted down is the blue buff that is taken by Echo right here. So 3rd blue in a row now stolen by Velocity. That is not the best for Shifter right here. He'd love to have the extra farm power. Still holding up with 159 here, but I still got to feel like he'd love the experience and gold from getting that one out. So Velocity, I guess it's kind of on them to keep making moves because Karthus and Vayne will keep scaling. So
it is.
They've got to keep coming out ahead like this.
And they also have to, well, they have to keep picking people off here because Coast are going to be splitting. They're the ones with the Shen, and they have decent wave with that Karthus. So they're the ones that are just going to be trying to catch up and farm up the minion waves, whereas Velocity are the ones with the pickup. They're trying to grab people off with Ahri, and they're the ones that usually mess up in the late game. So it's a very high-stress position that they're in right now.
And they've got some pressure now onto the mid turret as well, so good stuff. Coast actually bringing up their 2nd turret kill of the game. They're down dragons, sure, they're down kills, but at least they found this right here. But they've actually recalled Don't Mash Me into the team. They're grouping him with the rest of the roster, expecting something from Velocity. Whereas Zion Spartan says, look, you get the bottom lane, you take the farm there, go get that third outer turret for us.
So now Velocity are looking to make the move because they just finished the Leandri's Torment on Rumble. It's a huge item for Chris there. To get that percentage burn, if they can lead off the fight with an equalizer on multiple opponents, then they've got plenty of secondary lockdown to turn that one over, even if Karthus is one of the first targets and they take him out.
Zion Spartan gets interrupted. He's got to ult away from this one, but that will let him survive. Good read to say, uh-oh, I'm going to get jumped on. They've got me surrounded. He gets out, but that's a big cooldown burn. 20% cooldown from the Spirit Resist, but it's still Stand United burned.
They just lost one of their biggest cards that they had in this game, and now it's up to the Velocity to force the next fight so that they can take advantage of this.
I have a question, though, because they did burn Equalizer for it. Because of how important Chris is, it's almost like an okay trade, depending if they can't pick a fight.
Look at the cooldown on that. It's only 50 more seconds here.
Oh, that's fair.
So it is a big cooldown. You're right. Until that does come back up, then they might not want to dive a turret. But they've got plenty of disengage here.
Daydream locked up's gonna go down right away. Chris picks that up. NK Inc. locked up on the turret. Does get away from that one. Don't mash me. Can he find anyone else to chase down? Beautiful slows there by Chris's Rumble. And they get the taunt on Evaniscus. Can the team follow up? Looks like they can't just yet. Nintendude has already burned his ultimate. Can he get a rate for someone else? Dodges the slow. Gets the second one from Chris right here. Flash wall comes out. They get Maple Street. The roots are dodged as well. Maple forced to flash away. Shifter taking so much damage. He goes down. Nintendude as well. The taunt on the Maple. Is it enough? Requiem comes across. Do they still have the damage though? No one falls over. 3 for nothing now. Sorry, 3 for 1 for Velocity. The low
5 seconds on Equalizer. He's going to be able to chase this one down.
Oh, don't mash me. You're about to get mashed. I'm sorry, bro, but there is the Equalizer. Goodbye. Chris picks that one up. And Daydreamin, actually, that was an ace. He was killed at the beginning of that fight.
Such good kiting from Velocity there. And Evaniscus saved his own life in the beginning by landing the grasping roots on 3 members of Coast just as the taunt hit him. If that had not hit all 3 members, then it would have been caught and killed.
So there we go. The turret goes down. Velocity now looking pretty good in this game. They found the fight again. They won a battle without Equalizer. They, even with Coast's turret still alive, they found exactly what they wanted, got the catch, killed up Daydreamin', and now they're playing the Oracle's game. They're playing the ward battle, and with Dragon up in 5 seconds, if they get there in time, they can push their gold lead even higher.
Yeah, so that's the explanation. That's why we call them pick comps, because you saw right there, that's where they gained all of their momentum from, was the charm onto Daydreamin' to keep him in place for that burst damage.
But it's actually Coast who responds in time and gets there on top of the Dragon. The recalls from Velocity took just a little bit too long, and some gold comes back now Coast's way. They're only 5,500 gold behind. That is plenty. 5,500, 22 minutes is a pretty big deal. But again, we talked about the ticking clock, about the fact that VES has to keep moving forward. And let's see if they can do it. They've got their ultis back. Here's their next move.
That Dragon was a result of the sort of miscoordination of Velocity and the tendency of AD carries to go immediately farm free lanes. Maple Street showing himself up top meant that Coast were able to make the call to all just rush down that Dragon.
So there we go. The coordination's still there, and that's so important for teams that are behind, I feel, to keep the coordination going, keep the moves, and still make the right calls and still do the right things here. Hopefully Coast, for their sake, can stay coordinated and still make the right calls. Zion Spartan's ulti is available, though I don't think you can fight Chris 1v1. That split push might be difficult.
It would, and we've seen him already, Zion, get caught out, so he has to be very careful with the warding and the vision control at this point, because we've seen Velocity make great use of their pick composition. And if they catch someone else off, especially if it is Don't Mash Me, who's the only source of AD on this team Coast, then they're doomed, because all that Velocity have to do is everyone build magic resistance and then focus on taking out Don't Mash Me. As soon as Don't Mash Me's down, the only damage left is magic, and they won't have a hard time winning that team fight.
And speaking of focusing on taking down Don't Mash Me, take a look at Echo, one of the biggest assets for the team. Look at his build. He rushed a Lich Bane for some extra burst damage of what he wants to catch. The pull onto Chris, but Daydream is a little bit low.
He doesn't want that. Send it back.
Yeah, the Equalizer goes off, stops Mash Me in his tracks. The ulti burn here. The rest of Coast alive enough here. Can they find a fight? Oh my god, the burst coming out. Nintendo pops his ulti. I don't know if they can win the fight though. The ult comes across. Nintendo is caught alone right here. He falls down and Echo finds another one. Takes 2 kills. Daydreamer in the mix. He's going to go down as well. Shifter in the middle of the enemy team. He might have a Shen show up there, and he does have the Requiem, and that's going to get a kill. It's going to take down Echo, but VES still with a big power play there. Only Zion and Daydreamer alive against 4.
So Chris blowing his equalizer there, seemingly a mistake, but actually baiting Coast in. And then the overextension from Nintendo because they wanted to go in off of Rumble's equalizer being down, actually got him to be out of position, and then they ended up being the ones paying for it. So some next level strategies there from Chris.
You've got a big enough gold lead to bait fights without a couple of cooldowns and still come ahead. You saw it right there. Chris still getting massive 137 minion kills, 5-0 and 4. He's doing a really, really good job this game. You know, as the sort of replacement top laner, he's holding up quite well.
He is holding up quite well, and he was the original top laner, so they've definitely had the practice with him. The one they haven't had practice with is Echo, and the Lichbane build that you shout out, this is an Echo special right here. He loves Lichbane on Ahri, Lichbane plus Zanya's because it's good at split pushing. He can get plenty of tower damage because the Lichbane procs, and also he has good wave clear, plus he can get away. So it's sort of the poor man's split pushing TF there because he can't join the fights, but he is a great duelist, and he is great at shoving down turrets. So it's a very interesting little Echo adaptation that they've had since they don't have that global and they don't have a traditional split pusher.
So the team is going to regroup then and say, look, we'll fight again with our ultimates available and look for a turret right here. Mashme pushing away Chris a little bit in that lane. Chris already finishing his Zhonya's Hourglass and wearing a blue elixir. So a lot of damage there. Echo waiting in the wings, looking for someone to catch right there with a charm. Doesn't quite land, but the pressure now onto the turret. Lichbane damage coming across. Coast grouped up. Chris waiting to flank around the side and land the equalizer.
Yeah, equalizer back up means he's itching to use it. If they're able to land first a Varus ult, then that would be the key for Velocity to go in, because they can chain the Stranglethorns on top of that, even though it does have a long time before the knockup hits. If they are able to chain it with the Varus, then it's plenty of time for it to go off.
Here we go. Pull comes out, does not land on anybody. Pressure on the ult comes off, and here comes the engage. They jump on NK. Shifter's going to fall over fast. Nintendo drops as well. They jump on a dope Mashme. He's caught up, has to run back. Beautiful Zhonya's by Chris keeps him alive, but the re-engage might happen. There's the taunt. Shutdown picked up. Zion run back. 2 for 1 so far in this fight. Still an advantage for VES. However, Shutdown Gold did go to Coast AD carry. Problem is they have health bars. Velocity can keep pushing.
So Velocity definitely want to get the objective right after this one, but then they're going to have to be careful and pull back because Zion is looking to taunt somebody under the turret.
They found Maple Street. They find a lot of damage there, but the turret is gone. So they can't go for the taunt or the kill right there. So +1 kill, +1 turret. Velocity now up over 8,000 gold. They're playing this one right.
And Nintendo had the right idea.
Daydreamer, no!
Oh, space checking. Okay.
Yeah, that's a page from Zuna's book. That was a face check in an Ahri team, and that was not the best right there for Daydreamin'. Unfortunate for that, Coast is not allowed then to try like a comeback Baron or something. They don't have their oracles, they don't have their support.
Been talking about it all game long, the lack of vision for Coast. Problem's only gotten worse. The more ground you give up, the more it's going to be hard to get that vision back in the late game, because Velocity are going to continue to buy their pink wards for Evelynn and continually sweep out your ward coverage. So it makes very hard for Coast to make these comeback moves. You can see they're even too scared to go for that dragon because they have no vision, and that would definitely turn out poor for them.
Yeah, I feel like Coast needs a lighthouse here to kind of get some more vision into the fog. I realize it works the other way around in the real world, but pretend I said something smart there. VES just still pushing on through. Look at the dragon going down. Last one Coast did get because of some mistimed recalls by VES. This time around, though, it's just going to be an easy pickup there. NK Inc. smiting that one down. Doesn't want to save it for Baron. Might just not be on the table for them just yet. Instead, they could keep going for the pressure. 6-2 in turrets right now. Velocity in a good way, but the blue buff finally available here for Shifter on the left-hand side, unless it gets stolen. Shifter? Yay, got blue buff. Okay.
He's got it. So that will be a small win for Team Coast right now. But because they just were too scared in this area, it opens up Velocity burning this Baron down. They've got a Leandri's Torment, so they can burn it down very quickly here.
Let's see if they go for that here. Daydream goes for the flash hook, lands on Evanescence, goes right in. They get the taunt as well. The burst comes across. Evanescence ults and then goes down. The trade on a Daydream, and both supports are dead now. And King taking some punishment. Mashby still kiting around in this battle. Takes the Shine ult. They could engage. Mabel taking so much damage, but here comes Echo. Can he get the kill? Zion forced to run back, and King diving on through. Echo has killed off Shifter. The Requiem is not available, so this team fight is huge for VES. Everyone but Mashby is dead right now. He is forced to recall. Ooh, if they had Requiem, though, they could have answered 2 back.
And Echo even missed his Orb of Deception when he finally did join that fight. But since he has Lichbane, he still had enough burst with the auto attack proc to finish him off. So the alternate build right there actually does come in for him. And now Velocity can actually breach the inhibitor turrets.
And it's likely to go down. It's a 4 versus 1. Don't mash me. I don't think Vayne Mechanics can be strong enough to 1v4. They got Daydream back, though, but I still think they won't take this one as defense. Inhib goes down. VES does return home, but Coast now, they've got everyone alive. Potentially, they can try to rush something down.
It'd be very dangerous, though, because we go back to the same point over and over. The vision control that they have is very lacking on the map. So anything that they overextend for can be quickly punished by Velocity.
That's true. So instead, Mashby is going to get the free lane farm. 216 minions, has a Negatron clip to try to survive some of that Echo Burst damage, some of the damage over time from Chris as well. Makes a lot of sense, I gotta say. And of course, Shifter also trying to scale up, has finally finished Azonia's Hourglass since the last fight. So he'll be able to dive in and survive a little bit longer in those battles. Zion Spartan has only just now gotten the Aegis. That team has been far behind. That Evelyn jungle, of course, not one to build that item. So the AoE MR just now coming in for Coast.
That is a definite trade-off when you do have an assassin jungler instead of the oh-so-common tanky brawler junglers that we've been seeing, especially in Season 3. And they're definitely feeling the effects. Not only does Nintendo have 6 deaths and 0 kills on that Evelyn, but like we said earlier, if he doesn't land a multi-man Agnes Embrace, then he just gets popped early in that fight and doesn't even add the damage that he's trying to bring.
And especially when you consider the magic pen available to this VES lineup. Echo's got Sork Shoes and Abyssal. You've got Sork Shoes and what was a Haunted Gods, now Leandri's Torment. So low MR.
Ooh, this line is dangerous for Equalizer.
They're going to go right on in. Equalizer comes across. Baron picked up as well. Here comes the dash in from Echo. He finds Shifter. Shifter going to get dropped. No, he pops Zonia's. Really good disengage. Now, can Mashby survive this one? Getting dropped down. There's the Cataclysm. 2 kills picked up. Echo pops Zonia. So does Chris. No damage coming across, really, that's meaningful at all from that Requiem. And this could be the end game push for Velocity Esports.
This Velocity composition is so good at baiting those Barons and just rushing them down even, because the line damage that they can punish you with if you come to contest a Baron is just ridiculous. So we saw it right there. There's a nice embrace, though.
Here we go. The ult is there, the shield, and it just does not matter. That's a death there for Nintendo X. Now 2 versus 5. VES takes 1 turret down. They're going for number 2. Zion Spartan trying to hold the line. I just don't think he can. He's going to fall over as well. Now only Daydream is left alive. 10 seconds on Shifter. Last Nexus turret goes down. This could be the game right here. Picked up Velocity Esports, ending the day on a high note.
Congratulations to Velocity, tacking on another win here. So Coast actually split the games. They had their hopes pretty high after the first one of the day, but Velocity too saying they are not going to give up on this. They're going to scramble to stay in.
There is always that chance of the end week push. They've got 1 more game to play tomorrow. They've got 5 more in the last week. You never know. If you drag down Coast, if you drag down Curse or Dignitas, you can always get your way in there. And that's the start of what these guys need. You think back to Coast, and they've got to get their way back up.
They're definitely not happy with that one, because when they look ahead, they judge how hard these matches are going to be by their expectations of the teams. And that Team Coast, they expect the 1 versus Velocity to be the easiest one. Now that they've lost that game, the road ahead just got a lot steeper.
Exactly, and that's going to be up to them to get themselves back out there and get the wins. Talk it out. They've got their coach elements. They know they've got the ability to just sort of regroup themselves. You saw them make a 3-game push just in the last week and a half. Right? 6-game losing streak. Okay, we pulled it back. Picked up a loss here. They need to pull it back.
Definitely the fans at home, the Coast fans, are hoping for a repeat of last split, but it's looking harder and harder.
It's going to be difficult. But, guys, we're going to go AFK for a moment. But please don't report us, because when we return, Velocity's Echo and NK Inc. will join us to talk about their impressive win. Plus, we'll break down the biggest plays of the day and update the playoff picture. The North American League of Legends Championship Series will be right back.
Everyone, welcome back to the North American LCS. I'm David Freak Turley, joined here by two of the All-Stars here from Velocity, NK Inc. and Echo. So, guys, congratulations on your win. When you came into it from Champion Select, what was your plan?
I don't know. Going in, I just know that I wanted to pick Ari. I wanted to take that away from him, get my revenge, because they did the same last time. So we kind of had a comp in mind, more of like an AoE team fight comp, and just kind of got the picks we wanted and then just executed perfectly.
Cool. So was Jarvan a big key to that then, of just getting the AoE team fight together?
We kind of just wanted to run Jarvan Rumble together because it's just really strong for dragon fights, and then even late game it's really good. And then when they kind of picked like Karthus into that, I thought that was kind of silly because Jarvan can kind of zone Karthus off unless he flashes out, and then it's just going to be Karthus sitting on a Rumble ult, not damaging the rest of your team.
So I want to actually ask you about the opposing team's jungle choices, because you're known as a big jungle Evelynn player, as one of the most banned against your team, and then now twice in a row they're picking Evelynn against you. Is that interesting to you at all, or?
I don't know. I just know how to deal with it better than like most other junglers or most other teams, because it's like if you're a really good Evelynn player, then you know how to deal with a really good Evelynn, because you know what counters you. So
for the guys watching at home, what do you do to beat a jungle Evelynn, a good jungle Evelynn?
Well, pink ward behind you is step one.
Okay.
Because if they come behind you with Shen Eve, you're pretty much screwed. And then the other thing is, like, you want a lot of team fight control abilities like Zyra ult or Jarvan ult, so that they can't really maneuver around the fight and do that much. It kind of zones their carries while they just die, because Eve's not really that tanky.
All right, so let's actually move forward and talk about you guys in the playoff picture. You've got 6 games left in the season. You do have the potential of making the playoffs. Where is your mind state at right now?
As long as it's mathematically possible, we're going to keep giving it a shot. But as soon as it's not mathematically possible, we'll probably try some more interesting stuff. And you might see things reminiscent of the Janna Ezreal thing and just try out stuff.
Why have you guys stopped running that strategy? It seemed so promising before.
A lot of people just figured out how to deal with it, so that was probably the biggest factor there.
But you guys have more. You guys are more playing in the darkness in case you want to try out other crazy things.
Well, of course.
All right, I'm looking forward to that. Not necessarily you guys knocked into the playoffs, but I want to see more crazy things from you guys. They're really interesting to watch. I love seeing you guys' new strategies. So, Echo, I want to talk to you then about joining here on Velocity. You were on Marn. Unfortunately, Marn didn't make it into the split. You're back here partway through. What was that like, sort of rejoining the LCS?
It's a really good feeling to rejoin. I wish it, to be honest, would have stayed with Marn. That way it would have done well. I really enjoyed playing with Marn, but I really enjoy my new team as well. It's been very welcoming, pretty good atmosphere and all that. Let me play the champs that I want. So I'm enjoying it. I'm glad to be back in LCS. I enjoyed the amateur scene and stuff. It's starting to pick up a lot, which it hadn't been more in the past, which is really good. It gives them a lot more practice and all that. But definitely want to be here. So.
Cool. So I want to actually ask you guys a follow-up question about the departure of Vile Rose. If I understand it correctly, you and Evaniscus are the new shot callers. How has it been sort of embracing this new shot calling role out of nowhere?
Well, like before with Vile on the team, I kind of did a lot of like the mid-game stuff where it was like, we'll get this tower, or like this is our level 1, or like we're gonna tower dive this guy, or like what our plan was. Like I had the plan, like the groundwork laid out. It was just like, he did more of like we're gonna do Baron, or we should push mid, or we should like do all this stuff. So I'm just kind of going, all right, well, we want to get this tower, or we want to win this fight, or like we should go mid because our comp's better than theirs, or try to bait a fight here and then turn it on them. You know, it's just.
Okay. Cool. So a lot of good calls. Then, of course, for you guys, you won that fight really well strategically as well as on individual play. So last question for you guys. I want to look into the future of Velocity. You guys, you said you're going to keep going for it in case you still have the chance to make it to the playoffs and kind of staying in there. If it does go to relegation, if bad things do happen to you guys, is Velocity sticking together? You're going to make a run at the challenger scene? What's in the future for your team?
We haven't really thought about it yet since it's still mathematically possible.
Okay.
But as soon as we're out, we'd probably discuss it and decide what we want to do as soon as like we know what the future holds, I guess.
All right, well, guys, thank you very much for the interview, and I do hope to see you guys stick around. You guys are an awesome team to watch. You guys pull out some really cool things. So, again, thank you for your time. Good luck in the rest of your matches, and congrats on your win right here. But, guys, we do have more to show you here on the LCS. Jat's going to break down some of the great plays we've had today.
Thank you very much, Freak, and I have 2 clips for you here today. This TSM versus Curse game was very close, and there were multiple teams fights, but this was really the one that decided to swing it. Just pay attention to how far away St. Fishes becomes from the rest of his team and how TSM protects Wild Turtle. Let's roll the clip now at full speed to see how it starts off. St. Fishes flies in with the Ash Arrow. They were calling for this, and he immediately starts bouncing around with Voidboy loading. Pause it here. So you can see St. Fishes had one thing on his mind with Voidboy, and that was to just get on top of Wild Turtle. That's exactly what St. Fishes and Voidboy did. But they forgot that the screen is a really big place, and nobody else on Curse could actually follow up with the team. You notice that nobody on TSM had went past the point where St. Fishes and Voidboy dived in. So watch now how Dyrus and the rest of TSM put a bunch of crap in this area that stops Curse from being able to follow through to the rest of the team. Let's roll this at half speed to see how it works. Equalizer goes down. It's really just the equalizer, as Curse can't get through to support the fight. Pause it here. And we get to see that just because Cop wanted to walk through that huge fiery ground area, he got taken to half health. Meanwhile, TSM was happily dealing with all of Curse and repelling everyone away. Look at this clump of people on top of Wild Turtle. They were really trying to protect his full 6-item and then some build. Let's roll the rest of this at full speed to see how, even though TSM didn't get immediate kills, they completely prevented from Curse from getting them. Just double speed it up here because we saw the long roll down here. Reginald pops his Requiem, it kills Edward, it blobs Saint, and then everyone chases in to finish it off. From there, they took a bunch of control, didn't quite end the game, but that was really the fight where they decided to win. The next fight, though, wasn't really a fight. It was a 1v2 between Doublelift and 2 adventurous boys here with Psycho Sid and Bloodwater. Let's just roll this at half speed to show how Doublelift dodges every single shock blast and uses his stealth and flash amazingly well. He tumbles out of the brush while stealth. So first off, Vulcan didn't get to see him until he was already out. Then he flashes the crescendo and uses his stealth once again to get farther away from Psycho Sid, so Psycho Sid didn't get any auto attacks with him when he was in melee form. He dodges the next one, and then Bloodwater checks his attack here. He doesn't auto attack all the way through. That might have killed Doublelift. At that point, he was able to finish off Bloodwater and get the double kill. But let's actually back that up just to realize how quickly Doublelift was making these decisions. From the very start of this fight, let's actually just roll it right from here at full speed to see how Doublelift pulled off the 1v2. Clips like this deserve being watched multiple times, again and again. Half speed, full speed, any speed, because you don't frequently see 1v2 straight up out of a brush dodging a bunch of skill shots. So even though COG wasn't able to win that game, that play merited special mention as we move on to the next day of LCS matches. To talk about that, let's send it back to the desk.
Thanks very much, Jat. And with half of Week 8 behind us, we should take a look at the standings. Cloud9 is shockingly still in first place, with Vulcan sitting in second, TSM holding down third.
In fourth place, it's CLG, while Curse and Dignitas are tied for fifth. A half game back from the final playoff spot is Team Coast, with Velocity sitting at 4.5 games off the rest of them.
So coming up tomorrow, we will have 6 more huge games that'll shape the playoff picture and the path to Worlds.